Thank you. And thank you everyone for having me and having patience while I speak English. I apologize that I don't know Portuguese. I can sort of understand Spanish, which means I can sort of understand Portuguese when it sounds the same, but I definitely can't keep up. So everyone that knows more than one language, I'm in definite awe of you. So thank you for allowing me to speak in English, and feel free to ask me any questions that you like about my career or VMware or tech as I go through my history and talk a bit about what I do. So I live in the United States in Colorado. We're in the western part of the United States on the Rocky Mountains. But it's not cold here. It's very hot and sunny outside. But if you've ever heard of, skiing or snowboarding, this is generally where people come. I've been in IT for as long as I can remember. My father is an electrical engineer with a PhD in electrical engineering. So since I was born, there were computers in my house. So my first computer was an 8086 that I used. I was around 5 or 6 years old when I got into video games. And I really like playing video games. I still do, especially during a pandemic. It's a good activity to have. And the deal was that my father would let me play video games as long as I learned to program. And I'm terrible at programming, and I don't like it, and my brain doesn't work that way, and I'm not good at it, but I learned. And the other thing that I learned that my dad taught me was being able to upgrade the computer. So being able to replace the hardware, the CPU, or update memory to make the system faster, overclock it. So I had all of this background of operating systems and applications before even Windows 95 came out. So about the time that Windows 95 emerged, I was in high school, and my first job was in PC repair. So I really like troubleshooting and trying to figure out, like, somebody dropped off their computer and said it doesn't work, and be able to figure out what it is, either hardware or operating system related, was just right up my alley. So I really enjoyed it. I went to university at a place called Vanderbilt in Nashville, Tennessee. I actually played soccer there as a goalkeeper, football. And I still needed spending money. So I took a job with the help desk at Vanderbilt University to help all the students with their issues. But that's, answering the same question over and over definitely takes a toll. So I took another position in the School of Engineering to maintain the computer labs. So I was the one that would image all the systems and make sure all the right software was on there. And then maybe don't tell Vanderbilt this, but in the meantime, I started attending a Linux user group because I was very familiar with Windows, but I didn't know anything about Linux, but I knew that most servers ran Linux. So the local user group happened to meet at the university, so very easy for me to get there. And I started to form this community. And I never had a community around IT, especially back in the 90s, where computers weren't very popular. The internet sort of existed as dial-up with AOL and CompuServe. But I finally found a community of people to be technical and really geek out about computer stuff. And that was actually the first time I saw virtualization, was in this Linux user group in an auditorium. And so I wanted to continue my Linux skills, so I managed to hack the School of Engineering servers. There used to be this software called Jack the Cracker to run against a password file, so it was very easy. It wasn't like I had a bunch of skill. But that's what really, that whole troubleshooting aspect and that whole I'm curious about things, really, that's how I learned. So I was actually going for a degree in biology. I thought I wanted to be a geneticist. However, my first biology lab, they had a microscope and they said, count the red blood cells under the microscope. And I was like, that's very boring. I don't want to do that. And I certainly don't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I switched to the School of Engineering for my degree. And the only option in IT, in the IT field and computer field, was computer science. And the problem with that is it was all programming again, which I don't like. So I did that. And unfortunately, I had an injury that ended my career, so I couldn't play soccer anymore, and that university is very expensive. So I couldn't go to that university anymore. but that was okay because it opened the door for me to go work for an internet service provider in Chicago, Illinois. And I was an intern there after my freshman year in college. And then I had my full-time job after my sophomore year. So I did not finish my degree. And that is where I learned to manage websites and email servers and web servers, of course, but also banks of dial-up modems and things called T1s and CSU, DSUs, technology that we don't really use anymore. But it was a very small company, so I had the opportunity to do everything. Shortly after that, I moved to a company that was what we would call a SaaS company today, software as a service. I moved to a company, we called it then application service provider, and we were basically a shopping cart that any company could use to sell their products. So this is before Amazon. I feel like I sound very old right now, so I'm having a little trouble handling that. So after working for that company, they were acquired by a company in Colorado, which is how I moved here. And I expanded my skills to learn Active Directory at the time, because that's around the time Windows 2000 came out. So I had multiple MCSEs for those certifications. And then as I moved through different positions in different companies in Colorado, I learned to work in the Department of Defense. So I saw more of the secret side of things. So there's the classified, the unclassified. I also had different other contract work before I joined a company called Johns Manville. And Johns Manville is a manufacturing company that makes insulation and roofing tile. And that maybe doesn't sound very exciting, but it was the first time in my career where I had the opportunity to work with something that was tangible to me, that I could physically touch in my hands. I know what insulation is. I know what roofing tile is. Everything else was tech before that. And so I really enjoy it, but it wasn't a tangible thing. And so I really enjoyed going to the manufacturing plants and understanding more about the business and how we as IT could help. Because at the time, the folks that ran the manufacturing plants did not like to work with IT. They saw us as outsiders. They saw us as people that made their lives more difficult rather than helped them. And so that was really my first focus on being able to help the business through technology. And that's something that I continued throughout my career. So after Johns Manville, I was a consultant for EDS to do data center consolidation, infrastructure rationalization. And Johns Manville is where I learned to use VMware technology. So my first rollout at Johns Manville was ESX 2.5 something, and then upgraded to VI3 in production. So that was before it was called vCenter and vSphere and all that. And it was amazing because one, I was a server admin and the storage admin, so I controlled all the infrastructure. So I didn't really have to ask for permission besides spending. I said, this will just be better. And I got to do it and I got to control it all. And I just loved the technology because I'd never seen anything like virtual machines or vMotion before. And it made life so much easier to be able to manage a virtual device rather than a physical device, especially when they're in another country or another state. And so I took that knowledge and used that at EDS to help companies like Bristol Myers Squibb, pharmaceuticals, and other organizations to help with their virtualization strategy and moving from physical to virtual. And after that, I decided to go back to being a customer on the customer side. So I worked for a company called IHS. They're known as IHS Market. And I was a technical architect focused on storage, servers, virtualization, OSs, all that stuff that I was good at. And at that time, I was trying to build out a solution for our sales teams to be able to easily demo our products on demand without having to contact IT or have static environments. So what I ended up designing, I later found out was something that VMware had implemented internally already. And I was like, you guys could have told me this so I didn't have to figure it out myself. But it worked out because I was known as this customer that was always asking very difficult questions, but very passionate about the technology. So when my sales engineer, because VMware always provides a sales engineer and a sales representative to every customer, when my sales engineer took a new job inside VMware, he called me up and asked if I wanted his job. And I was so excited because I love the VMware technology so much. And I loved how helpful and passionate everybody from VMware is that I interacted with. And I couldn't figure out how to get into the company. And so that emerged. And of course, I said, absolutely. I updated my resume. I provided it to the hiring manager. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I was working for VMware. And as a sales engineer, it's my job to understand the technical requirements of the customer, talk about what our products and services do, and help them with the right solution, not only just from VMware, but how we can integrate with the other technologies that are important to them. So I did see something in chat about understanding Red Hat and OpenShift. So the more that you know about operating systems, Linux, Windows, Kubernetes, Anthos, AWS, Azure, the more knowledge you have, the more you'll understand the concepts, but also you'll understand how they integrate together. So definitely learn about as much as you can. So as a sales engineer, there's different levels. I was a senior systems engineer when I joined, was promoted to staff. And then I went through the principal process. So in front of the principal review board, I presented my case and how I had impacted VMware globally, helped customers, helped internally, partners, how I showed innovation. And I received a principal systems engineer. So I was the first female principal systems engineer at all of VMware. And then after that, I joined the office of the CTO because of my customer experience, because of my field experience, and that's what we call sales and professional services and support. We call that the field. So I had customer field experience, and then there's another group at VMware called research and development. And those are the folks that design and create our products. That's where the developers live, where the coders live, where the product managers live. And I was able to understand what customers feel and what they go through, what it's like for the field to sell our products or try to sell our services. And I was able to translate that to our research and development engineers, because eventually I did get my degree in computer science. I did do that. It just took a while, and I did it online, later on because I was working. And I do have a minor in business. But I was able to translate across and say, these are how products need to improve so our customers and our partners can use them. And so after moving to the office of the CTO, about a year or two later, I was promoted to chief technologist. There are only around 12 chief technologists at all of VMware. And I'm the first and unfortunately only female chief technologist, but hopefully that will change. So my job now is to speak to customers, mostly executives, architects, and our true supporters around what our entire portfolio looks like. When I joined VMware back in 2010, we had about 5 products, and now we have hundreds because of the acquisitions, because of the innovation we do. So I talk about our strategy and how we can solve their problems. I work with research and development to share how we should improve our products and our roadmap to help our customers. And I also get to lead a few great programs inside the office of the CTO to develop our technical talent in the field, like the sales engineers and professional services and support folks. So I really love my job. I really love the company because of the EPIC 2 values that we follow: execution, passion, integrity, customer, and community. I've been here for 10.5 years, and I feel like I've really grown as a person because of the support and family that I have at work, but also the support and family in the V community. So I really hope that you take advantage of this great program, of this great organization, of the IT Academy, to learn more, not just about VMware, but all technology. Definitely always be learning. I wouldn't be good at my job if I wasn't constantly learning. Every day I learn something new. So really enjoy the support of this community and these programs, and learn more from everyone around you. And thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.